Hello, and welcome to our Caucasus Podcast. And the topic that we have for today, we'll be talking about Armenia. That is our topic for today, and we are already live. And today, I want to share with you a couple of facts, like to be more precise, like top 5 things you are asking. Also, you are asking us, you are asking Google autocomplete about Armenia. So, today in the Caucasus podcast, we'll be talking about top 5 questions you may have about Armenia. That's what we have been gathering also, and we have analyzed which phrases you look for the most and most often in the browsers, also mainly in Google. And we have prepared a short set of answers for you. So something that you may start with when you are thinking and you are looking for pieces of information about Armenia. Everything you need to know a bit more about Armenia. By the way, we will have in the end a bonus question and of course answer for you. So stay till the end. And for those of you who are with us for the first time, my name is Asha Juba. And I'm the host of the Caucasus Podcast. I'm Caucasus specialist, political scientist, and I also am Georgian language teacher. I'm the owner of Języki Caucasus languages of the Caucasus, where we teach you Armenian, Azerbaijani, Georgian as well. And I myself learn right now Armenian and Azerbaijani, and this is the Caucasus Podcast destination for everyone who wants to know more about this region, about South Caucasus, about Georgia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, and to get reliable answers to your questions. We talk here about history, a little bit politics. We talk in general about these countries, modern challenges, literature, culture, and many more topics. Everything that you ask us as well to prepare the episodes about, and also things that we believe it's vital for you to know if you're interested in this region. So let's get started with the first question that we have for you today. And this is, to be more precise, the question, let me check it here for you. This is Armenia Europe? This is the question, one of the questions that was the most often asked and the most often that we have seen. So this is a very political, I would say even ideological question. Is Armenia Europe? And if you ask an Armenian person, I'm more than sure they will answer that, of course, Armenia is Europe. And in addition, this is like a bulwark, the border of Europe or the border of Christianity. So we'll be coming to the religion questions as well. But from the perspective of the borders of Europe, it really depends whom you are asking and in which century you are asking and stating, putting this particular question, because it is very conventional. It is like contractual demarcation after all. There is no very strict border where it is. It more depends how we define across different centuries Europe, and it was changing, by the way, over the time and along centuries. So in the case of Caucasus in general, one of the theories, like where is the border of Europe, says that eastern border of Europe runs through the Greater Caucasus and then Black Sea. So, following this definition, neither Armenia nor Georgia would be caught within the borders or be part of the border within the Europe. However, this is not really what's in the definition how the Armenians would look, and there is also, like, from the religion perspective, the borders, how would you write. So we have, that is, I would say, more geographic perspective, but let's maybe look on the aspects of organizations and initiatives, international initiatives. So Armenia is a member of the Council of Europe. Yes, so this is member of this organization. It is also a participant of Eurovision, by the way, and also, for example, many airlines on their websites. There you will find Armenia in the Europe tab, into Europe section. So also culturally, many Armenians emphasize and underline that they do belong to Europe. So, as I said, this is not a very strict question, not that easy to answer, but it really depends from which perspective you'll be asking. Like this, for sure, from Armenians' perspective, this is, of course, Europe. So let's go to the next question, as we were talking a little bit about the religion. So the next most common question that you have, this is Armenia Christian, like Christian country, and do Armenians celebrate Christmas in general? So Armenia, in Armenia, the dominant religion, this is Armenian Apostolic Church, and over 80%, I would say, of Armenians from Armenia declared their affiliation and being part of this church and being part of this religion. So Armenian Apostolic Church, this is part of, let's say, big Christianity family, and the head of the Armenian church is the Catholicos of all Armenians. That is the official title, which means, as I said, that we are talking here about Christianity in case of Armenia, but in the version, let's say, so-called Oriental churches. So if you are into history of religion, you maybe know or remember that in the 5th century there was a moment that some of the churches split, and they haven't accepted the decision of that council from the 5th century, and they separated. So one of these, this is the Armenian Apostolic Church. We won't be going into much detail, like what is the difference, etc. If you have more questions, just let us know in the comments, and maybe we'll be preparing a separate episode just about religion and religious maybe celebrations, etc. in Armenia. But if you are interested in that, if you are watching right now this podcast on YouTube, just let us know in the comments. If you are listening in the podcasting applications, in that case, you have two options. Either if you have a section there of questions and comments, just let us know. If not, you may just drop us an email, maybe if you are a part of also our free newsletter, the Caucasian Mail. So just answer, just put a reply and send us all the questions that you have about this topic, because we are more than happy to prepare episode just dedicated for you and based on the topics that you have. So that is the main part. Like if you want to, if it is important for you or you're interested in that, so yes, in Armenia we have like the majority of people, those are Christians, part of Armenian Apostolic Church, and the second largest religious group are Catholics. So still part of this big Christian family. There are, I would say, very few believers of non-Christian religion right now in Armenia, because we are talking about the state of Armenia. So that is how we look. That is how Armenia looks from the religious perspective. So coming to the second part of the question about Christmas, because we have combined, to be honest, two questions that you had, because I thought that it is in general together. So Armenians do celebrate Christmas, but this is not in December. They don't have Christmas celebrations in December, but in January. So on the 6th of January. So if you are, for example, planning a trip to Armenia, it's good to know that during this December Christmas there will be probably not that much going on, but in January there will be more celebrations as such, and also Armenians will be celebrating Christmas with their families. So this is the second question. Let's go to the next one. So the next one that you had, that is about European Union. Yes, exactly. So European Union, and whether whether Armenia is a part of European Union. So the shortest answer is no. Armenia is not a member of European Union. Armenia cooperates and have like relations and diplomatic ties with European Union, but in general there is no country in the Caucasus that is part of European Union. And Armenia signed a partnership agreement, the last one that was with European Union also like more or less 3 years ago, the one that's let's say started the whole discussion debate in Armenian about what is the path for Armenian politics and what is also the next, let's say, strategy and international relations strategy for Armenia. And as we are recording this particular episode, we do see and you can observe a shift in Armenians' foreign policy more towards cooperation with European Union. For example, in 2024 and also at the beginning already of 2025, there was Armenian, for example, citizens petition so that in parliament there would be discussed like a law or a bill that Armenia would start bigger negotiations, let's say, with European Union, and to talk about further integration or like having stronger ties with European Union. And also already in at the beginning of 2025, there was a bill passed in the first hearing in Armenian parliament that would say about further cooperation with European Union as one of, let's say, the goals of Armenian foreign policy. So this is the shift that we have been observing for the last couple of years in comparison to what was in the previous decades. But it doesn't mean that either Armenia is part of European Union, and neither this nor that in very short time Armenia will become member of European Union. So just to keep that in mind. However, this question was quite often asked in your questions, so probably you are wondering this. So also there is, for example, in Armenia right now the EU observer missions is like monitoring mission in Armenia. There are this like the tasks of this mission. It works and they work on the, let's say, borders with Azerbaijan, and it is connected with the conflicts and the previous wars and right now the relations with Azerbaijan. About that you had questions as well, so we'll be talking about this in a sec in our today's episode of the podcast as well. So having said that, let's move to your next question. So this is about Russian, using Russian in Armenia. So the question was in general like, does Armenia speak Russian, like this? So we kept it as it is, but I want to tell you here about in general Russian language in Armenia. So the official language of Armenian, this is Armenian. There is a separate language and a very old one. And to be more precise, this is in Armenia. It is Armenians speak Eastern Armenian form, so called. So there we have Western Armenian and Eastern Armenian. Western Armenian, this is Armenian that is mainly spoken in diasporas. So Armenians living in, for example, Europe, in Americas, on America's continent. So, for example, in United States, or in Europe, different European countries, and Western Armenian and Eastern Armenian, they are in general similar. However, they may be like different spelling, there will be slightly different words, a little bit of different grammar, but for Armenians, like Western Armenians and Eastern Armenian users, both languages are more or less understandable. If you want to learn Armenian to use this in during a trip in Armenia, it is good to focus and find materials that will teach you Eastern Armenian. So there is also some things that not many people maybe know if they are not that much into the Caucasus. So if you are looking for materials and online courses, etc., as we, for example, teach you in our school in Ethnic Caucasus languages of the Caucasus, we teach you Eastern Armenian, so the language that it is spoken in Armenia. And Armenian language is one of the Indo-European languages, so as a little bit like with a little bit wink and as a joke, we may say that this is a very, very distant cousin of, for example, English or French. You may see some similarities, let's say, to some extent. And Armenian has also its own alphabet, so that it is not similar neither to Russian nor to the Latin one that we use, for example, in English. However, learning Armenian alphabet, it is quite easy, I would say. I can say from my own experience, because I'm the one also who knows Russian alphabet. I know Georgian alphabet, and I know Latin obviously, and I know a couple of other alphabets like Korean, for example. And I can tell you that Armenian alphabet, it's not that hard to learn. However, what you may need for that, it is good study material. So to focus on the patterns, having fun exercises as well, because otherwise it just seems quite dull and boring to some extent. So that is why if you are to go to Armenia, it is good at least to more or less learn the Armenian in the way that it is printed. So that would be very, very helpful. And for that to also learn it is in general good if you are thinking about going to Armenia to learn the basic phrases in Armenian. So for example, saying hello, thank you, goodbye, how are you, things like that. So things that we also teach you during our courses. Our Armenian language teacher is conducting also in our school in the Ethnic Caucasus languages of the Caucasus the individual lessons online and also group courses if you are interested. So those are the options that I do encourage you to know at least a little bit when you are thinking about going to Armenia, because it is really, really helpful. So some of the Armenians about Russian language may speak or still speak Russian or they may understand that it may be not very proficient Russian, but this in very simple situations they may know, because they, for example, may still remember it from the Soviet times, as Russian was very heavily used in general in the Caucasus, or in general in the all parts of the Soviet Union that are right now the separate independent states. You may be able to communicate in Russian also with some Armenians, especially in previous decades. They were also going to Russia because of the economic reasons and to work there. So that is why Russian is to some extent known, let's say in Armenia. But for sure, this is not a dominant language. So some of the questions that also I get from time to time from you, whether like in Armenia they speak Russian or this is like similar to Russian language. No, it is not. And there is a own Armenian language that is very beautiful and quite easy, or not that hard to learn, with its own very nice and also not that hard to learn alphabet. So that's for sure what I can tell you about this language. And so we have about the language. We have a couple of other your questions. So now the question that you have, this is about Armenia and Azerbaijan. So that's also a question that you were asking a lot, and that's maybe obvious. So the question, to be more precise, is: do Armenia and Azerbaijan get along? That's a citation quote from what you type in Google. So we took it as it is. So the short answer to this particular question is no. So for over 30 years, there is a, let's call it in general, territorial conflict for Nagorno-Karabakh. We won't be getting into lots of details about the origins of the conflict and what happened along the years, etc. That's a totally separate topic. And one of the territorial conflict, this is in general connected with Nagorno-Karabakh and among others and other areas, let's say, that are next to on the border or between, let's say, Armenia and Azerbaijan, depends which part of we are talking about. And there were within those last decades the conventional wars between these countries, and also combat fights, and in general there is no peace treaty as such between Armenia and Azerbaijan as we are recording these episodes, and therefore any border, any part of the border between these countries, so between Armenia and Azerbaijan, has been closed for over 3 decades. So from the moment that there was collapse of the Soviet Union stopped existing, there is no as such border, let's say, for you to pass as a tourist. So maybe if you are thinking about also and planning to travel and to see the whole South Caucasus during one trip, it is very good to read about the situation right now. And for sure, maybe that will change in the future. We don't know, but as for the moment that we are recording it right now, there is no possibility to go from Armenia to Azerbaijan, or from Azerbaijan to Armenia, like on the border control and things like that. No. And it is very good also to the moment that you'll be planning your trip to read more about the roads and transportation possibilities for that particular moment. And by the way, one thing that's very often I see also, maybe not in these questions, but during your questions when you are planning the trip to South Caucasus and you are thinking about seeing all of the 3 countries, if you have like 1 or 2 weeks for your trip, I would really discourage you to plan visiting all 3 South Caucasian countries. One of the reasons for that is because mainly you would probably spend your holidays in a car or any means of transportation that you would choose. One of the reasons for that is when you're looking at map of the South Caucasus, it's not huge, yes. However, it is very mountainous region and mountainous area, even if they are like valleys, but then you have mountains, etc. So the traveling from one place to another, it is not only part of like which border is open and where should I go first, etc. And this part of them like geopolitical logistics of that, but it is also like the geographical factor, and maybe there will be like weather factors depending on whether you go during summer or maybe during winter, for example. So traveling from one place to another, it may take much more time from time to time than you would assume just looking at the map, for example. And what's, for example, as we are talking about Google today, Google Maps would tell you, or any other map that's like internet map that you would be looking at. And the reason for that is just the terrain and how it looks like. Yeah, so it is very good to think about it. But in general, to sum up this question, there are no like standard relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan right now, and Armenians and Azerbaijanis from these two countries, and it's good to know that there is for these conflicts in general there is no peace treaty signed as well. Yeah, so that is the situation that we have on this part of Armenian border. So let's look at the bonus. So we have prepared, I thought that maybe you would have like some additional questions, and the question that I thought it is very good for us to answer as well, just include like the 6th one, because this is also the question that may be useful for your trips and planning your trips. Does Armenia use euro? So euro as a currency Maybe this is connected with European Union questions that you have from time to time. So in general, the currency in Armenia, this is the Armenian dram, and there is which is, let's say, equivalent of euro, and the dram is one dram is divided into 100 lumas, so it is like euro cents, something, so for you to more or less have a concept of that. So if the word dram, this dram in more, to be more precise, to say it in Armenian, dram, would sound familiar to you, it may be because of there is like drachma in Greek. So there are some research that say these two words are historically connected, by the way. So if you go to Armenia, there is very often not that much like standard possibility to pay in euro. So you have to exchange your currency, which is totally possible in like almost everywhere, starting from the airport and border crossings, wherever you like with. For example, with Georgia, if you are traveling from other South Caucasian countries, so you can exchange euro to dram. When you are already in Armenia, you can do that and then use the local, let's say, Armenian currency, not using euro as such. In general, I would suggest you when you are thinking about going to not only to Armenia but in general to South Caucasus. By the way. To check before what is the right now the exchange rate for either euro or US dollars, because it varies from time to time, and sometimes it's better to have euro, sometimes it's better to have dollars, sometimes it's better to have a like mix of these. So especially that if you are not from either eurozone or you don't have like US dollars with you as a standard currency that you use on in your daily life, so and still you have to exchange it to buy euro or US dollars, so that is also better to check always what is the right now the best option and exchange rates. So we have gone through all of your like top 5 or even top 6 questions that you have about Armenia. I do hope that it was like a nice starting point for you to know more, and you got intrigued maybe with some of the pieces of information. If you have additional questions about Armenia in general, or any more precise questions about Armenian and language or Armenia in general, we'll be more than happy to prepare the episode for you. So just let us know in the comments as well if there is something that you would like us to tell you more about within these questions that we're talking. Also, there is a possibility, so as I said, either if you are watching that on YouTube, so there is comment section, and if you are listening to that in the podcasting apps, because we are also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other like standard big podcasting applications. So then either type there as a question or send us email, for example, via our newsletter that we are sending weekly to our newsletter subscribers. This is the Caucasian Mail, and you can sign up for that as well on our website on językniekaukazu.pl, and there is English version of this website as well. So you can sign up also to the newsletter, or you can go there and see what are the options of learning Armenian with us, to be more precise, with our Armenian teacher. So I do encourage you to get maybe deeper into your knowledge of Armenia in general and Armenian language. That is really fun to learn, I can tell you, like first-hand experience. And if you liked today's episode, or you like the Caucasus podcast in general, you may help us spreading the word that there is such a source of information about this region. So just share this with one friend that is also interested in the Caucasus, or maybe wants to in general know more about the world that is surrounding them. So this is the podcast that we are preparing for you, for this who wants to have more reliable information about the Caucasus in general. So thank you very much for being with us today. And this podcast is prepared by Języki Kaukazu, Languages of the Caucasus, where we teach you Georgian, Armenian, Azerbaijani, and we also share with you information and fun facts, and preparing you, for example, to deciding to move to these countries, or if you want to know more about the culture of these countries. So we are in Języki Kaukazu, Languages of the Caucasus, exactly for you for these questions. My name is Asha Juba and I'm host here, and I do thank you very much for being with us today in this episode. See you in the next one. Bye bye.